What's up, fine people? I want to talk about the future of Ghost Recon. The original game was released during a halcyon of gaming. There are so many classics from that period, but something happened during the 2010s. Something went very wrong. Since then, the vast majority of games have stemmed from trite concepts. Trends replaced innovation, the gaming market skyrocketed, and the willingness to experiment did the inverse. Some people will claim that things were perfected and that is why a generic was formed. I disagree. Certain games sold well and foolish leaders decided that copying was the best strategy. The eclectic styles of the past were abandoned, seemingly without any consideration for their successes at the time. With exponentially more gamers, the sales were guaranteed to increase, but the extra sales were seen as the confirmation that the games were also improving. They were not. I really hate the modern attempt to turn Ghost Recon into a jack-of-all-trades game. That happens to almost every open-world game. Ghost Recon is not supposed to be focusing on so many things. Instead of focusing on tactical movement and combat at mid and close ranges, they've been focusing on flying, driving, dialogue systems, side quests, shops, community hubs, hand-to-hand takedowns, parachuting, cutscenes, and a bunch of other redundant stuff. The first Ghost Recon offers attention to detail, such as clothing getting wet or kills only being called out if there are 2 or more ghosts in the mission. If you turn your view while crouched, you can hear your body shuffling. If you're prone, you can only move so far before you need to move your body. This little stuff adds realism and immersion. The small details supplement the core design rather than offering distractions. The focus remains on making a tactical shooter that offers fun. If you set a fire team to the most cautious movement speed, they perform a bounding overwatch, which is a real military method. Now imagine using your voice to direct your squad to perform such genuine tactics. As far as I'm aware, Ghost Recon 2 is the first Tom Clancy game to have voice commands. I did not remember that at all. I only saw it while looking at the game's manual while I was researching for a previous video in this series. Apparently, players can use their voices to both command teammates and perform actions such as switching weapons and reloading. Previously, I had thought End War was the only Tom Clancy game with voice commands. Since I was wrong about that, I might be wrong about the following, but I think Ghost Recon 2 and End War are the only 2 Tom Clancy games with voice commands. Supposedly, Breakpoint has the ability to open the map and such by using your voice, but it only works for certain hardware. I'm not sure why they would remove such a useful feature, but it's even weirder to have voice controls and not market them. To end the history section, I'll point out that the only game I've ever used voice commands in has been SWAT 4 with the SEF mod. It is extremely useful when it works correctly. I don't understand why so few games have the functionality. The microphone is generally underused. I would gladly play more games with my mic on if the game reacted to my voice. I'm not into horror games, but it would still be great if bots, friendly and enemy, could hear my voice and act accordingly. Come on, it's obviously more realistic to be able to command your squad with your voice than needing to go through menus. Of course, sometimes you will want to give silent commands, and that's why it's important to also have menus for commanding. The enemy bots should be realistically hearing and reacting to mic inputs. I don't particularly think I would use voice controls to make my avatar do anything but command squad mates, but I would definitely use my voice to issue orders. Assuming the command system is as deep and intricate as it should be, using my voice will be useful even if every command were bound to its own key. I don't know the technical reasons as to why developers would not add the functionality to their games. I'm sure they would be more likely to do so if a console's hardware were designed to support speech recognition. However, it has been done before on PCs, on consoles, in vanilla, with modifications, decades ago and recently. So it is a realistic feature, and the implementation is also realistic, especially when speech recognition is better and more common than ever before. If not now, when will they implement it? Good microphones are more common. More people speak English now than ever before, and many people do so without much of an accent. The time is now. Ubi should not wait until it's a common feature. Command menus are great. Voice commands are better, so long as they work properly. When the gameplay is deep, players can frequently have busy fingers. When the combat is lethal, milliseconds matter. Rather than requiring key presses, the game should be listening to the player, allowing them to quickly command their squad even while performing several other actions. As useful as it is for keyboard users, it is exponentially more useful for gamepad users. My gamepad scheme is very powerful and convenient, but it still requires a couple of seconds to issue some of the commands. I'm not sure how long the voice recognition would take, but it should be possible to multitask with it. Using voice commands could be faster for some commands, and it would certainly be easier during complicated movements. Plus, it is more engaging. Using your voice to command your squad generates satisfaction. It feels right. Combining the voice commands with eye tracking or virtual reality could be amazing. Free Look would offer a simpler combination that is still useful and deep. It might be more precise too. I don't use VR or eye tracking. Even solitary voice commands are an underused and powerful tool for captivating players and enriching gameplay. Having the world react to your words is not only novel, but compelling. I don't know. Seriously, I'm not sure there is much to say about its implementation. I could go through the 60 commands on my gamepad scheme, not including contextual ones, fire support, and item sharing, but that doesn't seem right. I suppose I have to point out that gamepad users would need to turn it on and off via the menus, whereas keyboard users could toggle it with a keystroke. While it's on, it would listen for available commands, something such as rally up. Using an initiation term seems like an unbearable weight. Content creators could simply mute and unmute as needed or deal with the consequences. It could also work in cooperative play, sending markers/pings to the commanded players. On top of the more than 60 commands, it would also need terms for selecting and unselecting fire teams and soldiers. The fire teams would use the NATO phonetic names for the gamepad's face buttons. The soldiers would either be numbers plus the word man, or players would use the soldiers' names. Especially for gamepad users, it would be beneficial to be able to open menus with a voice, the map, the inventory, etc. The fauna and humans of the world would react to players' microphones. At the very least, the creatures should be reacting to speech. The player's voice can scare animals, attracting attention. If a player is close to an enemy and loudly commands the ghost to move forward 20 meters, the enemy should hear the speech and behaviors should be triggered. Artificial intelligence is extremely important for tactical shooters, and voice commands tie in well, not only for commanding allies, but for interacting with other forces in the environment. Other than that, I don't know enough about how it works to say how it should be implemented. It would be great if consoles and PCs had hardware for voice recognition, perhaps as a part of sound cards, but the software obviously works without it. Because the number of terms is limited and hardware is so powerful, I'm assuming the recognition would be fast. Obviously, it would not prevent the player from using the command menus. The voice commands are an aid, not a replacement. This should be a popular idea. I'm not sure why the feature is so rare. The only game I've ever played with it is quite improved by voice commands, and it requires a mod with older and less accurate speech recognition. Ubisoft already implemented the idea in Ghost Recon 2, but they should really bring it back. The game will stand out. They don't need progressive plot lines and characters to be distinct. That's what the gameplay is for. Useful functionality and little details are what need development. Give those attention to attract attention. Ubisoft needs to stop trying to make an open-world game with dozens of redundant actions and systems. They need to focus on an open-level game with military tactics and strategic depth. There are dozens of commands that belong in the game. While there are clever ways to quickly use those commands with button inputs, the ease of voice commands becomes a powerful weapon during the complex moments of highly lethal combat. Instead of stretching to double tap another input, players can double tap foes while commanding squad mates to flank. They can trigger a synchronized breach while never losing control of the avatar. Tactical shooter is a genre that begs for voice commands. Tom Clancy's is a label that begs for depth and realism. I command Ubisoft to listen to my voice as I beg for Ghost Recon to be Ghost Recon again.